Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing quiche, not quickie, as some people would call it. When I do quiche, I usually do two of them at the same time, more or less, because, hey, who doesn't like variety? Step one to making your quiche is obviously you need a crust. By the way, if you're not familiar with quiche is an egg pie. Yep, that's it. Plain and simple. Egg pie. So the first thing we need to do is make a crust. I always do the double crust, because this way, like I said, I always end up doing two quiches when I do quiche. Pie crust is fairly simple and yet complicated to make. All you need is flour, shortening, and a little bit of water, and a lot of motherfucking patience. One thing often quandary to me is, how exactly do you measure shortening in an easy fashion when it says so much of a cup and whatnot? Well, it's very simple. Take it on a spoon, look at it, chunk of white lard. And you want to make this go up to, almost. There you go. I have 2/3 cup shortening. As I stated before, patience is an essential key to making a pie crust. Why? Well, because you have to cut in the flour and shortening together, basically. Now, there's a neat little tool. I'll show it to you. It's all covered. Basically, you got this little tool, which kind of helps cut things in. If you don't have this, you can use 2 butter knives and spend about 20 minutes cutting it together until it kind of turns into pea-sized little pieces of flour and shortening balls. Floured balls. Floury balls. It's as if you've got one of those really handy-dandy machines that do all that shit and blah blah blah. You could just put it in there and do that, and I guess that would work too. It's kind of cheap. Sorry about the steam. Made myself some tea. Got really drunk last night. I remember not being able to stand up. I didn't realize I drank that much. I hate when that shit happens. Now, as we do this, I'm gonna find, for about 5 minutes or so, you're gonna have a nice crumbly mix of stuff. You know, these little chunks of stuff that is sort of turning into your pie crust. So glad I bought this stupid little tool. Like I said, it's the coolest thing in the entire world when it comes to making pie crust. Here you go, I'll give you a nice little shot of it. Because seriously, it cuts the amount of time that you have to cut this shit together in like a fractional moment. Besides, my hands would get really tired and sore from doing the knives back and forth. It just fucking takes forever. Some Amish guy probably came up with this to keep his wife from bitching about having to make pie stuff. So we're about at the point we're going to start working on part 2 of pie crusting. While I'm working on making this pie crust, I've got a pan on to cook my bacon, because the bacon is what we're going to put in our quiche, well, at least one of them. The other one, I usually like to do either broccoli or, I think today I'm going to do something with peppers, since I got jalapenos. I'm going to make some sort of pepper quiche. Here's our crumbly, mushy stuff put together. We are ready to add the next ingredient. Basically, the next step is you're going to take a fork and you're going to stir it up together and try to make it into a ball and add a tiny bit of cold water. Preferably ice cold water. If you remember my measuring cup from earlier, I just threw some ice cubes in there. We're going to use that as my ice water for when I do the mixing of this all together. Get a fork, and you're going to start mushing it all together. You're going to stir in that water. You're going to start going from pea-sized pellets of floury dough to a coagulation of chunks as you stir, and eventually those chunks should form into a nice ball of doughy pie crust. Now, you could cheat. You could totally cheat doing this, and I used to, and still do occasionally if I feel like it. You can go to the grocery store and buy frozen pie crust already in a pan. All you gotta do is put the shit in it and bake it. Now, there's a perfect consistency to crust. Do I know how to get there? I'm still learning. Just the right amount of flour and water, and shortening, you should have a decent pie crust. Don't add too much water, but you want to add enough that it's pliable, it'll be rollable, and it'll be good to use. Alright, motherfuckers. I have a ball of dough. Let's start rolling out our crust. As you can hear, we're sizzling up, frying our bacon, and we are at the next point of making our pie crust, the rolling stage. Now the next step is a delicate step, and that is to get the pie crust in one piece off of the rolling thing and into the pie plate. As you see, I have just rolled up some pie crust, and then you're going to gently unroll it over the pie plate, preferably in one piece, and hopefully, if the crust is good. So we got our pie crust in the pie plate. We're going to trim off the excess blah 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 around the edges here. And then after we've trimmed off the excess, we got our bacon, it's almost ready here. We're going to put together a very simple quiche. I shouldn't do shows when I'm hungover. Quiche is fairly versatile due to the fact that you can pretty much put whatever you want in it. Anything. You put spinach. You could just make it a whole bunch of cheese. Hell, you could put poop in it. I'm not going to say that poop quiche is going to taste good, but you can put poop in quiche. Ooh, cheeseburger quiche. Ah, pie crust. Alright, our bacon is done cooking. It's nice and hot. I'm going to slice up the bacon, or chop it up as best I can. And this will be part of what goes into the pie plate. There we go, we've got our bacon and cheese in the pie crust. Let me just realize this little nick there. And then we're going to put some eggs in there. I got 5 eggs in there. I'm going to whip them up really good. We're going to add a little bit of milk to it. Just a little bit. We're not going to the point of trying to meringue these or anything. But you want them nice and fluffy. We're going to whip them up really, really good here. I don't know if you can see that. And then we're literally just going to pour this around the pie. And with our fork, gently, so as not to damage the crust, kind of smush the egg around to make sure you get under and around all of your filling. And voila! This is our quiche, what it looks like before it goes into the oven. As I said, we're going to take our fork and just kind of gently move the stuff on top. Don't really try to fork it, not really trying to mix it. We already did all the mixing and shit like that. And then now we just throw it in the oven. We're going to bake this at 375 for about 45 minutes, basically until the egg is firm. As I said, I like to do 2 quiche at the same time. Kind of adds a little bit of variety. So for my second quiche, I'm going to do a hot broccoli quiche, which basically is I'm going to have a broccoli quiche with jalapeno peppers. So basically I'm just going to dice up the jalapeno slices a little finer, so not so much heat per bite. When I used to work at the restaurant, we had a seafood quiche on the menu. There were all sorts of ways people would try to say the word quiche. My favorite, which happened frequently, was, "Can I get the seafood quickie?" I never corrected people either, because I thought it would be funny that they would go somewhere else and go, "You know, I had this thing, it was called the quickie. Oh, and it was so good." That's what you call being a douchebag in the future as well as the present. While cooking quiche, I'm eating olives. As you can see, we've got a quiche that is pretty much ready to go. The way to test to see if your quiche is ready, take a knife, poke it in the center. If it comes out kind of cleanish, without any kind of wet gooky of egg stuff, then you've probably got a good done quiche. Holy fuck, is that a delicious looking quiche or what? Fuck yeah. Oh the fuck yes, how delicious that looks. Something kind of cool about like a triangle piece of quiche on a squarish plate. Alright, there you go, that quiche. That's all there is to it. I know, there's not really anything else. I didn't do any kind of sides or anything like that. Usually quiche in my house, it's kind of the main meal. And we eat and eat until we're stuffed. It's delicious. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm going to enjoy my food. You enjoy yours. Don't forget to check out the book on Amazon.com. Better Than Eating Out. Pink Tacos Not Included by S.J. Moyer. Have a good evening. Fucking quiche. Fucking quiche. It's important to know where your fucks are going. Because, well, for example, I love fucking quiche. Or, I fucking love quiche. Two different meanings. Funny.